Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. Previous video, we looked at the Tucson Roadrunners and their remarkable season so far, battling for first place in the American Hockey League Pacific Division. Now we turn to the Arizona Coyotes Prospects sprinkled around the world, and we'll start with number one, Connor Geekie, who has taken that role Cooley had last season where he's the number one prospect. Everyone's looking at him just like Gunther too. He got traded mid-season after the World Junior Tournament. He was on the Wenatchee Wild and got traded to the Swift Current Broncos. His pace kind of took a dip after getting traded. He's only played 6 games with his new teams, only getting 8 points, but at least 5 goals in those 6 games played with his new team. But overall, this season in the Western Hockey League, 25 goals, 32 assists, 57 points in 32 games played for the centerman. Before at the quarter season report, he was on pace for about 2 points per game. So it took a little bit of a dip, but as he gets accustomed and acclimated to his new team, he should get back to that pace. Can't wait to see what he does in the playoffs and hopefully makes it to the Memorial Cup tournament. Then another rising star, a 5th rounder defenseman, very under the radar, is Justin Kipkie. 15 goals, 26 assists, 41 points in 47 games played, almost a point per game clip for this defenseman. He plays for the Victoria Royals, wears the letter A on his crest. He's had a huge jump since his pre-draft season. He had 33 points in 67 games played. So already surpassing last year's total with about 20 games less games played. Seeing this guy's highlights, this guy's confident, good puck mover, good shooting ability, good offensive instincts. Can't wait to see more of Kipkie, and a steal, it looks like, in the 5th round of the draft. Then we round out the WHL with a 4th round defenseman pick in Terrell Goldsmith, that heavy hitter, enforcer type defenseman, trying to see if we could unlock his offensive skill as well. He surpassed last year's point totals. He had under 13 games played. He had about under 11 points. This season he has 3 goals, 8 assists, 11 points in 45 games played. So I think last season he hit the 11-point mark with 13 games more played last season. This season, 13 games less. He's already hit last year's totals. So look for him maybe to get more offensive, but to me, it's just a defensive defenseman who likes to throw the body, be an enforcer, and hit hard. Maybe just a better Josh Brown with more skill. That's my mind of Terrell Goldsmith, but you never know. These players could turn a new leaf. Maybe after the WHL, he goes somewhere else and turns into a different player, but for now, that's sort of my bias of where he's going to end up. We go to the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, which I think they changed the name to the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. That's a mouthful. We got 2 incredible defensemen here. Maverick Lamoureux had a great World Junior Tournament for Team Canada. Unfortunately, Team Canada didn't perform as well as everyone hoped. They underperformed, a bit disappointing. Geekie was also on that team. Lamoureux, still a point per game defenseman, 28 points in 28 games played. He's only played 3 games after that World Junior Tournament, so not sure if he's nursing an injury or trying to just get back to game speed or what have you. But, 3 games in about a month now since the tournament's been over. A bit worrying. Hopefully nothing serious with him. But his Quebec partner in Jeremy Langlois, 42 points in 41 games played. He's 3rd in defenseman points in the Quebec League. I'm so excited for him to become a Tucson Roadrunner next season. For sure, they'll sign him to a contract. He's looked so good in the prospect tournaments the past 2 years. He was pretty much the only defenseman there last prospect tournament. Last year's, 2022's prospect tournament, it was just Langlois by himself. At least in the 2023 prospect tournament, he had Lamoureux there. I think Kipkie was there as well, and he looked great in both tournaments. I'm so excited for him, and he's just racking up points in the Quebec League. 3rd round pick, good value there as well. Then we go to the United States Hockey League. Julian Lutz has been killing it. And I mean, I was so hard on Lutz the past 2 years of making videos whenever I would talk about the prospects, but it was not my fault. This guy in 38 games played in Germany had 2 goals and 9 assists. And this year in the USHL, he's got 34 points in 25 games played, over a point per game, 12 goals, 22 assists. I just love that he's having such an offensive, productive season. Even though maybe the competition isn't as great, the USHL is below the NCAA, and he was playing in the top German league before then with men. So maybe it's a step down in competition, but to see that he's actually scoring and producing is just great to see, because for 2 seasons it looked like he was lost and was going to be an unfortunate second round pick. But thankfully it seems like he's turned it around. Then we go to Mooser, our first goalie prospect. 9 wins, 5 regulation losses, 2 overtime shootout losses, sporting a .906 save percentage and a .263 goals against average. All our goalies on this board seem to be having great numbers here. Also in the USHL is Linka. I didn't have much room to fit him. 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points in 21 games played. 7th round pick. We'll get to it later, but I think I'm going to start taking off prospects off this board, because this upcoming draft, they still have 13 draft picks, and I can just imagine the mayhem adding 13 more names here. Again, I don't expect the Coyotes to pick all 13 of those players, package them up, move up in the draft, make a trade here and there. But I'm going to have to start taking some names off that I think we're wasting maybe too much brain energy on. Slinka seems like one of those guys, and I'll get to the guy who I took off the board for the first time later. We'll go to the NCAA. Sam Lipkin. I think we tried to offer him a contract last offseason. Said he wanted to go back to Quinnipiac. He's usually a point per game NCAA player, and he's maintaining that pace. 27 points in 25 games played. Centerman, he seems to be our second best center prospect after Geekie. So, if you're a Coyotes fan and you think the center depth needs some help, if you don't think the future of Cooley, Geekie, Hayden, McBain, and Lipkin is enough, I think maybe this draft the Coyotes should go after a lot of centermen with all those 13 draft picks. A few of them have to be really good and hit the bullseye. So maybe we'll see some more center picks picked this upcoming draft. We go to Hurlball, or as he was pronounced during the tournament, Rabble, which I really hate that pronunciation. I'll just stick with Horrible until he becomes an Arizona Coyote. Goalie prospect, now becoming our best goalie prospect. 9-4-1 and .908 save percentage, .267 goals against average. Great numbers for your first year in the NCAA. He was also at the World Junior Tournament playing for Czechia. It was a mixed bag results for Hurlball. I believe in the medal game he was pulled early in the game. Some of the goals were just squeaking by him, maybe a bit too easily, maybe not tracking pucks as well. But still love this goalie prospect and love this pick by Bill Armstrong and staff. We go to Matika. 14 goals, 7 assists, 21 points in 25 games played. Almost a point per game player. Plays in Denver. Hurlball plays for UMass. Castagna, a centerman. I'm seeing a lot of highlights of Castagna. 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points in 19 games played for Cornell University in the NCAA. Ludka playing for Nebraska. 7 goals, 11 assists, 18 points in 24 games played. All these guys is their first year in the NCAA. So the fact that they're almost a point per game, they're producing, they're playing a lot of games, so the coach trusts them and they're just learning and developing. A lot of these guys, Morden too as well, Ludka, Castagna, Matika, Horrible, they're going to spend another year in the NCAA, so don't worry about signing those guys to a contract. And then Duda, he's here. I didn't know where to put him. He's finally playing hockey, not for the NCAA, so don't get confused there. He's playing for a really junior league in Ontario, like university levels, and not university levels like the NCAA. Like, this is really low, bottom of the barrel hockey here. lower than the Ontario Hockey League, the OHL. I think the Coyotes just had to throw him somewhere. Bill Armstrong's from Ontario. Maybe he had connections there. He's played for Ryerson University. I know they changed the school name a couple of years ago, but to me it's always Ryerson University. But at least he's playing hockey, starting to get some points, 5 points in only 8 games played. But honestly, the fact that he's playing hockey is a win, and we'll see next year where he goes. He's a second-round pick, so a lot of pedigree coming from Artem Duda there. Then we go to the KHL. Our Russian prospects, they were so good at the quarter season report, almost, a point per game. They were lighting it up around the time I was making that video. But this time, I think the wheels are starting to break or fall off or whatever it is. Daniel Boots, 17 points in 43 games played. He cooled off. He had 13 points at the 26 games played mark at the quarter season report. So he's only had 4 more points in what is about 17 games played. So he definitely cooled off there. Along with his teammate, Dmitry Simishev, 7 points in 51 games played. He has 2 points in his last 19 games played. So I guess the only positive here is at least they're still playing games in the KHL, because it's hard for rookies to stay in the lineup. The coaches, maybe the management staff wants veterans, and they maybe treat rookies not as well as some NHL teams do. But a bit of a warning sign that they're starting to cool off. Not sure what's going on there. It sucks that I'm not as positive on these guys in this video. I was so high on them last video. Hopefully it's just something with the team, not really an individual thing. Maybe they're trying to get better at different aspects of the game, but definitely have cooled off since the start of the season. Then we go to Moroz, who's actually a nice surprise in the Russian league. 21 points in 55 games played. I took off Fedotov. He is the first prospect I have taken off the board and putting him into some pile I don't have a name for yet. I don't want to call it a bust. Feel like that's really mean and carries a lot of baggage. I believe he has like 0 or like 1 point in a certain amount of KHL games. But like I said, maybe wasted too much time on him. I think that's one of Bill Armstrong's biggest blunders so far, or whoever was the scouting staff that picked him. I mean, he was picked right before Matthew Knives and Logan Stankoven. Stankoven, Dallas prospect who's killing it in the American Hockey League. Matthew Knives on the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's doing really well. So yeah, a big blunder of a pick, second rounder. Could have got those 2 guys that I mentioned. He's not producing well, and he's not supposed to come over to North America for like another 3 or 4 years, as Craig Morgan reported. So it's a blind spot sometimes where Bill Armstrong goes for big guys, big bodies, and sometimes it blows up in his face. Thankfully, we have so many draft picks and prospects that we could kind of tuck it under the rug and not really harp on Bill Armstrong and scouting staff so much. But again, it's a blunder. You got to call it out. You can't be so biased with your GM. So that's the first one I took off. Some other guys I'm willing to take off: Morden, Zelinka, and I'll give Bow a couple more videos since he's a new draft pick. We go to Sweden. Thielen was a backup for Sweden in the World Junior Tournament. He's a goalie, 4 wins, 2 losses, good goalie numbers there. Nord, 10 points, 36 games played. And Finland, we still have Korhonen playing in Finland, even though he played 5 games for the Roadrunners 2 seasons ago in the 2021-2022 season. He still hasn't made it back, so maybe he left a bad impression. But putting up some pretty good numbers in Finland, 9-6-2. A 905 and a 225 goals against average. I would say I'm surprised they haven't brought him over to the Roadrunners, considering, our backup position is really weak. Dylan Wells, sure, he's serviceable, but not really a highly touted goalie prospect. And Anson Thornton's been dealing with an injury right after training camp. So surprised they still haven't brought in Korhonen. Maybe when the season's over in Finland, they'll bring him to the Roadrunners. And Samubau, 1 point in 35 games played. So that's it for prospects. I would say overall really good. Loving the emergence of Kipkie. Langlois, keep an eye on him. He's going to be a big name for the Coyotes moving forward. Lamoureux, Geekie should be on the Roadrunners next year, if not push for a spot on the Coyotes. And then Lipkin, I think, will get a contract and go to the Roadrunners. If he accepts, I think maybe since he turned down the contract the previous offseason, maybe a chance he doesn't sign with the Coyotes. But again, that's all speculation on my part. And unfortunately, our two Russians from round one in the previous draft last summer, maybe taking a bit of a misstep the past 20 games, and hopefully they right the ship and get better and produce a bit more for their respective team. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.